Welcome to Daily Meditation with Sangha Live.
So, good morning, everyone. Lovely to be here with you. Lovely to see your names. Lovely to read where you are from. My name is Ulla Koenig, and I'm going to teach this week on interconnectedness and explore this theme with you. And we have arrived on Wednesday, and today we're going to talk about the prison which self-centeredness can be sometimes, and how interconnectedness actually can prove a way out of that prison. Yeah. And first of all, feel free to use the chat box. Feel free to use the question box, which is this square little box with a question mark in it. And I enabled it this morning. It works now, and you can put your questions in. We explored the past days about direct, immediate experience of interconnectedness, and you might want to share something about that. And yesterday we talked about interconnectedness and our perception of relationship, and our perception about conflict and harmony and our expectations around that. So today we're going to talk about self and self-reference and what interconnectedness has to do with that. And if you have any questions or reflections, please put them either in this question box or in capital letters into your lovely chat box so that I can respond to that. Well, and then I'm going to talk for a bit, and then we follow it up with a practice, guided meditation on that theme. And at the end, I will have time to look at whatever you would like to share and know and ask. Wonderful. Good. Let's get started. So the title for today is Leaving the Prison of Self-Centeredness. And my assumption before I start teaching this, or before I share my views with you, is that most of us probably live in cultures, societies, which have a strong emphasis on an individualistic rather than a collective or interconnected perspective on who we are and who we are in our togetherness. If we would live in a society, a culture with more of a collective sense, the teaching might sound quite different, because every view, like if it goes to the extremes, has its challenging and potentially shadowy aspects. So this is the basic assumption. So it's not a truth. It's coming from the perspective to say you are very likely to have taken in a very individualistic perspective on yourself and what you're supposed to do from the circumstances around you. If you perceive it differently, I'd be very curious and interested to hear about that in the chat box later. So what does an individualistic perspective on ourselves do with us? It sounds rather philosophical, maybe psychological concept. So let's look into the daily implications of that. It has its upsides, definitely. It brings advantages with it. Like, for example, in an individualistic society, we are encouraged to prioritize our needs. We prioritize our boundaries. We prioritize our interests. We are entitled and we are supposed to do so. You find out about your needs and what healthy boundaries are and what your interests are. And we are invited to explore who we are and what we want to do with our lives. And just saying the sentence, what do you want to do with your life? That can be beautiful and it can be a real burden. So here we notice how it can be light and shadow at the same time. And it also gives us a sense of personal freedom. I have choice. I can decide. I can make decisions. And it also gives an invitation to emphasize personal well-being. Yeah, many of you will be here because they emphasize personal well-being. Yeah, and all that has its healthy and appropriate aspects to it. And yeah, if held too tightly, if overemphasized, it also has its downfalls. So what are these? One thing I notice is that the idea that by looking after my needs and my interests and what I want, yeah, the idea is that this will lead to happiness. Yeah, that's very interesting to see. Well, I just need to find a way in life that all my needs get met. Yeah, and then constantly, and then I will be happy. That's a very interesting thought. Is that true? Yeah. And is it realistic? Is it even possible to say all my needs met all the time? Yeah. If something goes wrong, I experience dukkha. Yeah. Not fulfilled needs in one way or the other. What do I do then? Yeah. How do I relate to others when I think I need to meet my needs constantly, fully? Yeah. Or I'm supposed to do that. Yeah. Sometimes people say, "Oh, but you have to look after your needs." Yeah. You are so forgetful about your needs. And sometimes if we overemphasize that, the other person, yeah, becomes more and more a tool, a means to what I want and what I need. And if you have been on the receiving end of that, yeah, a person looking after their needs and not seeing you as a person and not even realizing that you are a full human being and have needs as well. Yeah, but just like a piece of checkers, like how can I maneuver you over the checkerboard so that I get my needs met? You notice how painful that can be. Yeah. Or others become hindrances and obstacles while you don't fully match into my plan to getting my needs met. Yeah. So I feel I need to push. I feel I need to maybe leave you aside because somehow you are in the way of all of that. Yeah. So it can become quite inhumane or lacking some compassion. Yeah. Lacking the realization, as Martin Buber would say, that there is another person on the receiving end of that. Yeah. That is one thing which can happen if we overemphasize this. The other thing which can happen is that we overemphasize a sense of responsibility. Yeah, in a highly individualistic perspective. Yeah, heightens my sense of responsibility. It almost blows it up into inappropriate ways. Everything becomes my problem. Every challenge, every unpleasant experience, remember, happiness was equal to getting all the needs met. So if a need is unmet, it becomes a problem. It becomes then my problem. And at the same time, and now you see the double binding within individualism, it becomes my responsibility to find a solution, to make it right. Ever sat on the cushion, ever meditated, and at the same time, it was my problem that I'm thinking so much, my problem that this body is hurting so much. And now at the same time, I have to find the solution out of this. Yeah. What a double binding, what a double whammy to say, well, no, it's not only my problem and somehow I caused it and I'm responsible for it and I brought it together. But at the same time, the same sense of self should now be finding this solution and make it go away. Yeah. That is something I call a burden. Yeah. And if something goes wrong, it's usually my fault or your fault. Yeah. Look at the language there. Rather than thinking as conditioned arising, Buddha's conditioned arising invites us to, rather than thinking in contributions. Yeah, someone is either taking in all the responsibility, all the arrows are shot in my direction, or if I don't want to and feel this is quite unfair, as it usually is, the arrows go on saying, well, if it's not my fault, it needs to be your fault. Yeah. And sometimes we can watch the mind. Problem arises, dukkha arises, and the first thing people usually do is saying, whose fault is it? Yeah. And the Buddha said something along the lines of saying, well, if a person got shot by an arrow, yeah, and wants to clarify, first of all, whose fault is it, he might die, yeah, from the wound, yeah, before he ever found out whose fault is it, yeah. It's like he said, can we care for the wounding? Can we care for the dukkha rather than finding out whose fault is it? And caring for the dukkha might mean I need to look into the dynamics which brought this together. I don't care so much about whose fault this is. I care for the dukkha, I care for the ouch. Yeah. And in an over-heightened sense of individualism can also make us really blind to the fact that I'm living in a society, that we're all living in a culture, that we're all living in structures which impact us. Yeah, I'm not an island. I am touched, of course, by the society, the culture around, the structures around. I read a study the last weeks which said that 75% of my generation of women, 75% in the West, suffer from some form of distorted eating, some form of physical shame towards their bodies. Yeah. And if you are like me, you always think, oh, I need to overcome this. I have this inacceptance towards my body. I have this shame towards my body, which arises and falls dependent on on the day and on all the other factors. And I thought, well, this is so interesting. If I live together in a society where 75% of the women are having this form of dukkha, it would be very unlikely that I'm not touched by this. Yeah, that I'm not touched by this. Maybe this is not something I make up personally, but it's something within the structure and the tissue of what culture and society is at the moment. And it would be very hard for me not to be touched by this. For me, then a sense of compassion arises to think, oh, love, you didn't bring this upon you. You didn't choose this. You didn't want this. And we are, anyways, swimming in the same soup. Yeah. Of course, we're picking this up at one point or the other. Doesn't mean I don't have to care for it. Doesn't mean I don't have to find wise ways to handle this. Yeah. But all this overestimated sense of responsibility, I brought this upon me because I see something the wrong way. That softens a bit, And you can use this example, and of course, relate it to any other popular cultural view you might be aware of. I would make the statement that an overemphasis on the self can be a prison. Yeah, the Buddha taught about the challenges which arise not from having an appropriate sense of self, which helps us to maneuver, which helps us to communicate, which helps us to orientate, which helps us to do things. Yeah, that's not the problem. The problem is when the sense of self gets inflated. Yeah, when the sense of self gets solidified, crystallizes, and then the dukkha soon after surely comes. Yeah. We can notice high levels of self-reference when we walk through the world and everything becomes about me. Yeah, everything says something about what I want and do not want. Yeah, what I need and don't need. If everything which happens is constantly related to, oh, does this serve me, or is this a hindrance? Is this what I need? Is this what I want, or is this what I don't want? Yeah, and the mind can get very sensitive, very highly referential around these questions. Saying, oh gosh, I need a pause from that. I don't always want to look at the world and myself and others only through the perspective of what I want and don't want. Yeah. And the same is, I don't want to look through at the world and myself constantly from the question who I am. Am I good or am I bad? Am I ugly or am I pretty? Am I competent or incompetent? Am I lovable or unlovable? Yeah. High level of self-reference. There's the constant need to weigh myself. Good now or bad now? Lovable now or not lovable? Give me a break from that. You notice the dukkha in that. And high level of self-reference also can mean that everything describes me. This belongs to me, this doesn't belong to me. This characterizes me, this is part of me. I'm such and such a person. As if we would write our curriculum day in and day out and then shift it around constantly and rewrite it and asking others to rewrite it, and you tell me who I am because I'm so confused now because I seem to be shifting and changing all the time. So I look out for a reliable other. You tell me who I am. Yeah. But the problem is you ask 3 people, you get 6 opinions about who you. And the last one, high level of self-reference, will cause heaps and heaps potentially of responsibility. That can be another trap. I need to do this and I need to change that and I need to control this and I need to transform that, because every level of dukkha, every level of ouch or imperfection or not enoughness, creates a new task on your agenda, creates a new thing on your list. We can't even come into this body and sit with it, because as soon as we tune in, we notice, tension in the shoulder. I need to move shoulder because there's tension, and then I become still and saying, the mind is chattering. I need to still the mind now. And meditation becomes this huge thread of responsibility and tasks. Care about this, calm that, And we repeat very much of the same, which we do during the day anyways. So, and the last thing I'd like to add is that this also brings up a lot of shame. Shame is very related to individualism, because if I am not part of something but stand alone by myself, the logic mind wants to measure and weigh, that piece of self. And we have a logic mind which is capable, and sometimes that's appropriate and helpful, to think in terms of good and bad and right and wrong. But now it starts to weigh that sense of self. It creates and construes a sense of worth and worthiness. And we feel this need to earn place, and we feel this need to defend our status and to belong and to compete with each other. We compete with each other because we think, surely one must weigh more than the other. So I need to be on top of the rat race because there's a sense of scarcity. There is not enough love, not enough attention, and not enough resources for all of us. So I need to be on top of the game. And if I'm left behind, something bad will happen. I'm excluded. I will not get enough. So can we realize how this sense of self sometimes, and this zooming in on self, sometimes really is painful, really is exhausting, really is not satisfying. And then interconnectedness becomes an invitation to open up to a sense of more than me, being embedded in something where I'm not the sole agent, directing and putting the puzzle pieces together, but touched by something I do not control. That's the scary part. To give up some of the individualism means to allow that I'm touched by something and impacted by something I do not control. I have this wish for belonging, and not a belonging because I earned it and made it or prevented it from stopping, but because I am. Just because I am here, I want to belong. But this also means that I'm leaning into a field where I'm touched and supported, where I'm impacted and influenced, where I'm nourished and held in many different ways, and by conditions I do not control. And so there is the beauty and the scariness, going hand in hand with each other. I'd like to put this in practice with you. Maybe you find yourself posture to meditate. And when you find your posture, allow the words to wash through, or listen to the impact they had on your chitta, on your heart-mind. And it might be anything from inspiration or an insight to confusion to resistance. Words can touch us deeply, and it's worthwhile listening to the heart mind every now and then. What does the listening do to me? Just a few more moments of allowing the echo of the words to subside a little and to arrive back in this sense of sitting here, standing here, lying here, walking. What we're going to do today is contemplative practice, meaning we're using skillful, slow, directed thinking. And before I do such a contemplative practice, I usually calm the body, relax heart and mind to the degree possible. So if you like, bring your mindfulness into an area of your body, like the hands or the feet, and connect with this area with the inhale, and then soften this area with the exhale. Or rather than softening it, invite it to, remind it of the possibility. Dear hands, if you like, this would be a good moment to soften a little, to give up a bit of the bracing and holding. And after 2 to 3 breaths, you shift your attention to another area of the body, maybe the feet this time. Dear feet, inhaling, I connect with you. Feeling you out. And exhaling, there's this invitation to rest. We're not going anywhere. We're not making anything happen. Then you might shift the attention again, maybe to the chest area this time. A gentle, caring, soothing inhale to connect and feel out this area, and then an exhale to remember it, that it can soften a little bit right now. Maybe not all of the tension is ripe to go. Maybe some of it is. And I'd like you to continue like this for the next couple of minutes in silence. And you might feel drawn to the most challenging aspects of physical experience. I'll just know that's not a necessity. You can go to the easy parts, the small parts, the parts you don't pay a lot of attention to because they don't make themselves so known. And feel these out and invite those to soften rather than immediately picking up the task of working on your experience, making the unpleasantness going away. And rather than me, mine, making the relaxation, invite the body, remind the body, and then the body is doing the relaxation where it's able to, where it's ready to soften the sense of self right from the beginning. I'm not making this happen. I'm not in control, not even of the relaxation of my body. And if you would like to, you could just continue doing this, creating contact, feeling in, feeling out with the inhale. Invite to relax with the exhale. Well, you might want to join me on this contemplation, a way of using thought in a calm, directed way to create insight. And we start this morning with the very room you're in. We call our home, my living room, my bedroom. And yet, if you either look around or just remember the room, you will notice that yes, you might have chosen the furniture and cared for the room, but others have left quite a lot of fingerprints here, in the literal and in the real sense. There might be gifts from other people. The furniture might have been made by other people. There might be stuff lying around from other people. When you moved in, people might have helped you to move in. And you can recollect some of these memories, some of these perspectives, and then just listen into your heart mind. What does it do to remember that what I call my room, my apartment, my flat, my place, it's not only mine, but came together with the help, with the support, and the fingerprints of many others? What is arising in the chitta when we remember that? I'm not asking you to feel loads of gratitude. It's just this mere fact of, oh, my room, but so many contributions, so many dynamics bring this room together. And then you can bring the reflection to the food you cooked or ate yesterday. You remember what you did to have food, your actions. Maybe you went to the supermarket, maybe you cooked, maybe you got it out of the fridge, maybe you bought it somewhere. And then somewhere in this doing, you met others. Maybe someone cooked for you or prepared food with you. Maybe you bought it somewhere and you met a person there. Selling it to you. Maybe you were in a supermarket and you saw the people working there filling up the goods. Or maybe you have a garden and you remember working in the garden, bringing this food together in the sunshine and the earth. And to finish this contemplation, I'd like you to choose one area of your life where you feel, oh, that's me. This is my responsibility. This is my problem, my conflict, maybe. And very gently and lightly and shortly, you might see your actions and your attempts and your intentions. And then just see any contributions in addition to that. Where are others involved? Where is the environment involved? Where are causes and conditions beyond what we call I, me, mine involved? And then we drop that contemplation and return to this body, feeling out The sitting, the standing, the lying down, the movement, the walking. Giving it a few moments to listen to the echo of the contemplation in the chitta, in the heart mind. What has arisen? What has been touched? And then we gently come back into movement, moving the feet and the fingers, some stretching, maybe some deeper breaths. And when you feel ready, you are invited to come back to the screen.
Today's podcast is an offering to you from our archive of freely available live daily classes. We make wisdom teachings and meditations as freely available as possible to as many people as wish to practice. You can help ensure we can continue to support a worldwide Sangha by leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts, by sharing this with someone who'd be interested, and by offering a small financial support at sangha.live/donate.